All right, we can entertain a motion that
Mr. Chairman, I make a
public hearing.
motion to open the November 5th meeting of the Southampton Village Planning Board.
Thank you, Roy.
Aye.
Seconded, aye?
Aye.
Aye?
Aye.
Okay. The first item on our agenda tonight is the East End Holdings for 3842 Jobs Lane. I believe that we have had a request from the applicant that it be adjourned till the December meeting.
You granted that request at the
And
last meeting?
Well, that was in a work session,
Yes, it was.
and therefore don't we have to approve it now?
No, you've already done that.
I think it's sufficiently approved from the
Yes,
work session?
absolutely.
Fine, then we will ignore that one.
That doesn't have any greater status at a
No,
public session.
Although
like this.
we get submissions about it. We've got a letter.
Just acknowledge that it's been
Yeah,
adjourned.
we got a letter here that was dropped on our desk for tonight about it, so.
Yes.
Yep.
Chickamaupogy, this is the drainage issue with the tennis court. They want to adjourn, I see, so this, I believe, we weren't asked to adjourn it last time, were we? They were going to come up with the drainage issues.
This one, actually, you voted also to adjourn this until
So
December.
so we
Yep.
did vote on it?
Yep.
Okay, and you're working on the
They are,
15
they've
versus
been,
14 versus drainage bin.
they've been requested to amend their site plan to be consistent
Okay.
with the calculations. That's
All
right.
right, and we will not take a motion on that. Then we have
Did you say something?
Beechwood Latch, which is adjourned pending resubmittals. Now, I guess, I didn't know we had a resubmittal. This is on my desk and your desk. This is presumably part of some kind of a resubmittal on Beechwood Latch. But, Bo, is this back before us, or is it still with the ZBA? The status of it on our agenda just says adjourned till next month, and so we probably should take a
I believe
vote, I
Mr.
guess, to
Flanagan
adjourn.
can enlighten us as to the status of, no, excuse me, that's Dave Gilmartin, sorry.
That's David Gilmartin.
Yeah, as far as I know, there's been no official resubmittal or request to reconvene the public hearings on this. This is a submittal. I presume it's more for the review of Kathy's.
No.
Pat Cleary.
This is why I asked
Sorry,
her for
Pat Cleary,
Patrick
right,
Cleary, because
Pat
we got to,
Cleary.
if this is a trigger that we'll have to get back up to speed on
That's
this one.
correct. It is a submission that he'll have to review, and
But it seems to me it's not firmly before us now. What we know
No.
is it's before the ZBA, so we can't take any action.
that's correct.
Properly take any
Yeah,
action.
but you may by the December meeting.
Okay, I understand
So
that.
we'll get this to Mr. Cleary and have him update the board.
Okay. Then we have
So
John,
wait, just for the record, should the agenda be updated pending review by Pat Cleary of resubmission, or?
we just got this, that's why I
Yeah,
want to call him.
I don't know the status, Kathy, so I'll have to check in with Mr. Gilmartin and then
Okay.
And I'm going to
contact
do an alert to
Jackie.
Cleary, who we haven't seen, and
I'll
obviously needed to see in months.
I will get in touch with him and have him get in touch with you.
Thank you.
John Danielson is next at Sanford Place. This we saw we were going to get rid of, and I guess he's now back
I have
formally. You were going to check on this
checked
with
in
the
with
ZBA?
that, and I was advised by the building department, Diane, that he has a pending application in front of the zoning board,
Okay.
which is to be heard at the first time at the November meeting of the board.
Okay. So
So we'll keep
I
that.
guess we did adjourn it about 5 meetings ago, so we'll
Yeah.
keep that status.
We were thinking about deleting it from the agenda, but it's
Right.
continuing in its current status pending the Board of Appeals decision.
Okay, then we have Hampton's HDA North Sea Road, and we have a site plan under review as the next item, and I think, if I'm adequately informed, we have counsel to this application here, and I think this is what
Okay.
we're not having a public hearing, we're trying to get this thing organized in terms of
Trying to
the
get it to a
roads and
public hearing,
all-
right.
Yeah, to a public hearing.
Right.
So, Kathy, the issues
So let me just,
in our work session, we got a letter from the trustees,
Right, so.
the village.
Just a little bit of background here.
With a view.
The engineer, the superintendent of public works had made some comments in an email regarding the site plan, and the engineer for the applicant had asked for a meeting with the deputy superintendent of public works, and that's Gary Gillespie. And a meeting was held sometime last month with the engineers and the mayor, and they got some input from the mayor and from Mr. Gillespie about their opposition to a driveway crossing Bowden Square. And the applicant was represented by his engineers. Mr. Flanagan was not at that meeting, and the engineers said they'd look at it. So after that, the mayor and Mr. Gillespie put together a memo citing their concerns, and so that's the memo that is here in the file.
Right.
And then, at the same time, a memo was being prepared by Mr. Flanagan, and I'll let you talk about that. How about that?
Okay.
Yeah, thank you, Kathy. Actually, I hope the sole purpose of this meeting would be to talk about the driveway access and nothing else with the site plan so that we can get out of here at a reasonable hour.
Okay.
I think that, as I've said before on a number of occasions, the village code is pretty clear that when you have a corner lot, you shall be entitled to a curb cut on each street on which the lot fronts. Now, as it turns out, even though Bowden Square is not paved to the end of the right-of-way, the Bowden Square right-of-way is the front yard of my property, my client's property. So we think that it is clear from the village code that we have an absolute right to make that curb cut. And point two is we had some colleagues of mine do some research on the state level to see whether or not there's case law to support that proposition. And in fact, there is, even in the case where subsequently the village takes property and it no longer becomes a street, that doesn't extinguish the right of that property owner to get to the street. And if that is extinguished, then that amounts to a taking. So I think this is really, I see it, a strictly legal point. We have a legal right under the village code. It's very clear. It doesn't say may have a right, it says shall have a right. That's mandatory. So I think, and again, as I pointed out previously to you, let's say we weren't even here for a site plan, and my client, who owns this property, which has a two-family dwelling on it, wanted to put in a driveway for the two-family dwelling. All he would have to do would be to go to the building department and get a curb cut permit. He wouldn't need any approval from any other board. The only time under the code where the superintendent of public works would have input to a curb cut application is if putting in the curb cut would result in the relocation of a street tree. Now, in this particular case, that is not an issue, and just for the sake of clarification, we had the surveyors, the engineers locate where the driveway would go, and as you can see, it crosses the lawn. It does not touch any plantings that are in the right-of-way. I can submit this for the record. I can get more copies if you want, but
Okay.
that's the only input, according to the code, that the superintendent of public works would have. It's also important to note one of his concerns was that it would destroy the aesthetic appearance of this green sward, which has, as you know, the drainage facilities underneath it. Well, as the site plan shows, the driveway is at the extreme easterly end of the property, very close to the property to the east of it. And by the way, as an aside, the only person who appeared at previous meetings on the application was that neighbor, and her only concern was that we properly screen our project from her, which we did. In fact, I have amended site landscaping plans which illustrate that, and she was happy. So I can give those to you now. And they've been, as Ms. Eisman asked at the last meeting, they've been revised to coordinate exactly with the site plan that the Rayner Group has prepared. So I have them, so that there's no question about that. I think there are 10 sets of
This
those
is paper
here.
to answer the neighbor.
I'm sorry?
This is then paper to answer the one neighbor's objection.
Right, but here they are, and obviously all the plans should match. We don't want to have a site plan that shows one thing and a landscape plan that shows something else, but we do have
Thank
them.
you.
So Kathy, I can give you.
Oh, thank you very much.
Sure. So I think that's really the point I'm here. My client is very firm about that, as I also think from a safety standpoint and from a planning standpoint, it makes more sense to have the egress, and egress only onto Bowden Square, because that takes people up to the traffic light. That prevents another curb cut onto North Sea Road, which everybody knows can be a real problem. I mean, it would almost be malpractice for me to recommend my client do anything else.
We'll do a second.
So I ain't about after 40 years to start doing that.
Okay.
So that's pretty much, that's our position. My client's pretty firm about it.
May I ask you, Bo, in terms of what I assume is Gil's usually, to my experience, thorough work, when it comes to our really contingent view of the curb cut law that applies here for a front yard and everything, do we need him to send a letter to you? Is this a matter that, as far as you're concerned, is,
I don't think it's a legal matter.
well, he said the code provides.
The code is the code. You guys know the code, and the code states that the property owner is entitled to the accesses. So I'm not sure why it's kicked over to the village attorney. I mean, I think the code is pretty obvious.
Okay.
I think it's up to a burden of anybody objecting to that to submit appropriate information and referrals and recitations to the board as to why it should not be granted.
Okay.
And I don't think the memo from
That's
the
my
mayor,
point.
Gary
That's
Gillespie,
my point.
is sufficient to do that.
That's, okay, thank you.
And by the way, it's not a memo from the trustees, Alan, which you said. It's a memo from the mayor or on behalf of the mayor and Mr. Gillespie.
Oh, okay, I thought the mayor would...
No, read it again. It's not,
Trustees.
it's reference the mayor and Mr. Gillespie, not the trustees.
So that, okay, you've just answered my question. The last point is since we got that, I was just worried it gave us some additional duty because it came, but it was just,
Well, if the
it's an observation.
if the trustees wish to communicate with the board and wish to
Thank you.
advise the board of their position on that, they're more than welcome.
Okay, so we view that as a view of two village officials, I think. Okay?
Well, I had a brief discussion with the mayor about this application, and two of the questions that he discussed with me, did not provide answers to me, were that it's the current drainage that was placed underneath the green area there in lieu of a drainage basin, which they were going to use to collect water, was funded by grants, which may preclude altering that construction by the language of the grant. And the other point being that in the future handling of stormwater for the Southampton Village, that area has been shown to have a high priority in terms of continued use to handle stormwater for the area. And as I said, he did not answer the question, but the question is whether those concerns would compete with the applicant's right to put the driveway across that area.
That's a good question. Could I respond to that? Because I think it's a really good
Yeah,
point.
because
It's a really
that was
good
raised at the work session. Does the grant history there
Right.
deal in any way with
We
what
have
the
been unable to
statute
find
says?
any reference to that. But what I will say, and I'll say again, that at the very least, there will be no net change, and at the very best, we will actually improve the drainage control in that area, and that could be at my client's expense, and that could be a condition of any approval you granted. So if anything, the drainage situation is going to be better. And I say that for two reasons. One, to the extent that we need to augment any of the drainage that's already there, we'll do it. Two, we're going to be retaining all of the drainage on this property to the north on the site. And three, we'll be controlling the drainage that comes from the driveway. So if anything, there'll be more drainage control, and you can make that a condition at our client's expense. So I think that as a physical matter, it's not an issue, and you can make that a condition. The other thing I'll just point out to you, there was all this talk, I don't think I have to beat about it too much, about whether or not this area is a park. It is not a park. It is part of the right-of-way. That's absolutely clear. There's no doubt about that. But your point is to go to Mr. Stevenson, and we intend to address it, as I mentioned. And I have somebody from the Rayner Group, Tom Houghton, here. He can, I think, support what I'm saying.
Good evening. Glad to hear from you, Tom. Would support us in terms of drainage or?
Yes, sir. I can speak to how we plan to construct the right-of-way. And we intend to work with the Village of Southampton in excavating the area. We'll take a look at the drainage structures that are there. We will upgrade any drainage slabs to traffic-bearing slabs. We'll provide the necessary distance between the top of the slab and our RCA. And we intend to replace any covers. in place in our asphalt so that they still may be accessed and cleaned by the village as required.
The mayor also indicated that along the edge of the green area, there is currently an old culvert. Is that correct, Kathy? I think I'm right in that you're going to have to figure out some way to go over or deal with.
That would all be something we'd have to do, and we can make that a condition. That can be certainly a condition, more than reasonable.
Currently, our existing utilities for the site run through two portions of the drainage. Let me grab the existing conditions plan for you, just to show that it appears that the drainage was installed around our existing utilities at the time of the grant. So you can see basically right through here, our water lines were there, and the covers are clearly preparing basically an access way between the two of them. So,
Yeah, but the dotted lines of the utilities running parallel.
yep. See right here, you have water. It's upside down. So there you go. You see a W
No, I'm looking at.
right there for water, and then our gas line runs through there. And had these utilities not been there, this field would have been entirely populated with drainage covers.
Yep.
So they worked around the utilities.
Right, so that just shows the utilities for that building are coming in off Bowden Square that way. Okay.
Correct.
Thank you very much.
Thank
I
you.
just have one question. One of the comments was that the plan is to expand this drainage area to the east. Is there anything that can be done to help expand the system so that way they're not going to have to dig up the driveway in the future if they were to expand it to the east?
If they
I
were,
don't know if you can answer the question, but, so if they were to add some additional drainage in this area, and how to connect it to the pools that are opposite, so.
if I was them, I mean, we could possibly add a distribution pool out here so that when they do excavate this area, they could tap into that pool, which would then be connected to the rest of the system.
Okay, that might be something to talk about.
It may be also possible to, I don't exactly want to put a crossover pipe without it going to a pool.
Yeah, that is worrisome.
We could cap it internally out here.
Okay.
Provide a crossover going over and then
Okay.
pick that up later on.
Okay,
if need
that might be a
but
thought, yeah.
If we intend to work with them, and if
Okay, crossover pipe, I like that.
I'd love to show the aerial showing the street trees around it, and that we're not going to disturb it. May I?
We gave the picture. We
Oh, you
got
did,
that.
okay.
We got the pictures here inside.
The one submitted
Driveway's
is,
outside the trees.
yep, the one submitted is an actual overlay of our line work from the site plan on top of recent aerial imagery.
Okay. Thank you.
All of these things are good points, and we agree with them, and we want to work with the village to make sure that it works.
If there's,
Tom, is there an as-built survey of the drainage field at the present time, or did that information that you just discussed come from your office's work?
Our office measured the cast iron covers to grade.
Yeah, but have you ever seen an as-built
We have not
engineering
been provided,
depiction?
or we have not been able to find an as-built of that. And considering that it's a county grant, we kind of expected there to be an as-built.
That's why I'm asking.
So if there's one there, we would love to have it so that we can incorporate it into our drawing.
All right, thank you.
okay.
Thank you.
That's all I've got for this
Pam,
evening.
any
So the county is
Views about this-
responsible for that plan?
It sounds like they have it all.
conflict of sorts?
I don't know.
Well, no, everybody has an argument. We're trying to find out if there's a reasonable, seems to me, what the village needs to do with us, as council just said, putting it in the resolution in the approval.
You could
What they work out with, I guess, between Gary and for the village, or whoever's the lead, with Kathy watching it, whatever they work out, that would be agreeable to both of them, that we would incorporate in our approval. If not, we're aware
I
of
think
the
it's the
problem.
board's decision. I think it's the board's decision.
Ours?
Yeah.
Yeah, if we get a report that something is satisfactory on this problem of going across this drainage area, then, as Gil said, we do this often when we're resolving problems. Bo, you talk about it quite often, where property owners will have an agreement, which is part of the transaction. But it seems to me we're not making the agreement. We get to approve one that if both the village and the proponent decide it makes sense, we will approve it and put it in the approval. So that seems to me that's the stage at which we find
I'm not sure what that
ourselves.
means, Alan. This is in front of the board. the village has submitted a memo, the mayor has submitted a memo in conjunction with Mr. Gillespie, but they are not in front of your board. They have not appeared. There's nobody on behalf of the village that's appearing to make a statement as to what the village wants.
I understand, and
So are you saying that the board,
the applicant can tell us that I refuse to meet with the village board, with a whole lot of hypotheticals.
no, he met with
Something like that.
representatives of the village. He met with representatives of the village, the applicant.
I understand, but I believe when they met, it was reported by Kathy that Gil wasn't there at that meeting.
Correct?
Now he's dealing with
engineers were.
Yeah, now he's dealing with the consequences. So they have a disagreement. The resolution of disagreement, if it can be announced to us, will go in, the suggestion was will go in the approval.
I think, again, this is really one of the rare cases I've had where this is a strict matter of law.
I understand.
It really is, and that's, I want you to focus
So
on
the
that.
question is, what if there's no agreement?
Then we're going to have to make a ruling.
That's what I'm saying.
I agree. If there's no agreement, we'll make a ruling.
All right.
And I would encourage you, when you're thinking of that, say, take into account what we've offered. We've agreed to make the drainage most likely better, but no worse. The concerns that the village has raised, we're willing to address. We're willing to have that in your approval, willing to have a covenant, and whatever you want.
And
But you, unless the village code is amended, you can't deny my client the right to that access unless you pay him for it.
okay, and I
I
hear what you say, but of your representations that what we will do, okay, I don't think we can make an agreement with you as to what you will do, and that isn't, is something the village as we accept it, that's all. If we have the power to make a side deal with you, this is what you guys will do, hey, write it down.
There's no side deal or agreement.
Write it down.
It's your decision,
You do it
and
all
you
the
have the
time.
power to have decision, you have conditions in the decision. That's what Mr. Flanagan is talking about.
You guys do it all the time when you
I
get
know
grant
that.
conditional approvals. You do
I
it all the
understand.
time.
If-
That's okay.
If it's up to us to invent the conditions, give us,
That's the direction you need to be heading unless the trustees are going to do something differently.
give us a draft. Unless the
We're not there
trustees
yet.
want to.
We're not there
But
yet.
I don't think we're there yet.
We have.
Okay.
So how can I give you a draft?
That's what I mean. I'm just, that's what I'm talking about. I want to get to those
So-
on the table properly.
Just for, right now,
Yeah.
I will check that the planning plan is consistent with the other plans.
Okay.
And then that will make sure the application is complete. We'll do
Okay.
referrals. And then at the next meeting, you should be able to schedule it for a public hearing.
Fine,
And then we can talk about conditions of approval or
that's fine.
decision. Okay?
And if I don't get to the mayor, or one of us will tell them if they or Gary want to come to the public hearing in some form, they should. Okay. So I guess we could entertain a motion that, on motion of the applicant, this is adjourned to our next hearing.
Make a motion to adjourn Hampton's HDA 116 North Key Road at the request of the applicant to the December meeting.
Second?
Second.
Aye.
Aye.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, gentlemen.
It may be a record. It may be a record.
It's 10 to 7, Gil. It's 10 to 7.
So it is by my watch, but I'm still old. I'm still old.
It's daylight, so,
Have a nice Thanksgiving, everybody.
You as well.
same to you.
Wow.
Get out early, eat often. 630 Hampton Road, BRL. This is the Spur application.
Actually,
It's being adjourned, right?
it actually says adjourned to December 3rd. That was in anticipation of a request for an adjournment. It didn't actually occur, so you should, for the record, approve the applicant's request for an adjournment. It was done verbally. He didn't submit a letter.
Didn't get a letter. It came to you?
Who is he, Kathy?
I'm sorry, David Gilmartin.
Bill Martin? Okay, so it's been done. So we will,
Verbally said he would, and he never did, so it's...
all right, we will assume that on the Spur, it has come, I will, as I said at the work thing, from here on in, you will be in charge of this. I need to recuse myself because I have an inadvertent conflict for somebody in negotiation with the Spur, so This is delayed a month,
I will do the
You in
best I
charge.
can.
So Alan, so what are you doing? You're recusing yourself?
I think I'm going to have to recuse myself.
Are you
So
gonna
I'm not
do-
going to vote on this one.
Well, if you recuse, then you shouldn't be present during the discussions.
We're not having a discussion yet. I'm going to leave the room if I have to. What I'd like to do is to deal, if we can, briefly with, and then we can conclude with that, and then I can kiss everybody goodbye. Pelletreau and the barn. Can we,
I can ask the rest of the board for a motion to adjourn PRL Hampton Road.
but I'm not voting on it.
Would somebody make a motion to
I
do?
second it.
Okay. So the motion was made to adjourn at the request of the applicant, 630 Hampton Road. Jane has seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
And call the votes.
Request.
There is a request?
What's the date of that?
October 29th.
Oh, I never saw that, okay. Okay, so good, it's on the request of the,
Rest of
To
the,
adjourn the,
no better.
right.
Right, so call each individual vote, not like call out the individual members.
Jane?
Aye.
Zach? Aye. Jim? Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you, Well, thank you. Okay. And I will ask, I'll ask them to make that item last on the agenda or something, just for ease of management in future meetings, if that's all right with everybody.
It's a good idea.
Okay, on Pelletreau Street, which is a flag lot, where we have a letter that just been delivered to us from the building inspector about parking. I don't know, we don't need to have a public hearing on this one, I don't think we do. Kathy, what is this, have your kid, you were dealing with the drawing.
Yeah.
Are the issues resolved because of this matter, or we?
No, that was an additional item. The memo that I had prepared, October 29th, revised October 30th, just made a minor change, requested some additional items be added to the plans, as well as a copy of the recorded easement for the driveway access, because we want to make
Because you
sure,
have the side access.
right, we want to make sure that that had been recorded to protect the owner to the east. Make sure that he or she will still have access to their driveway.
And so that's before the parties?
Yep,
Okay.
so we're waiting for them to respond.
But we will deem this application, I guess, to be adjourned for completion of the application.
Adjourn pending further submission by the
Yeah,
applicant.
by the applicant to deal with the issues raised. So, motion in that order?
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion to adjourn at the request of the applicant, 126 Pelletreau Street, until we receive further information from them regarding the flag lot landscape.
Second it.
Seconded? Aye?
Aye.
Okay. Now we have Henry Krasuski, where we are a collateral to the town application. And on this one, he wants to build a barn. Significant barn, what I call strawberry fields forever, next to the storage area, next to Bob's.
Oh, you weren't here, Pam.
If I were to understand the communications you had with Kathy regarding this, you were asking her if the planning board has any jurisdiction over an agricultural
That's right.
application, and Kathy's response was, this isn't an application, they're just asking us to, give our opinion
Lift our
on it?
leg over, is what you said.
Yes, and it's under general municipal law that if you're within 500 feet of in a municipality, which this action is, that you need to get the input from the neighboring town.
was input
So-
law, not agricultural site plan.
Right, right, and it just so happens to be occurring on an agricultural piece of property that's owned in part by the village and by the town. But the development that they're proposing is going to occur completely within the
the
town.
town.
And it's a barn that it will be used for market purposes during the season and for storage off-season. So that wasn't clear on the plans when we had talked last week.
The market purposes is in addition from what we saw.
It just wasn't clear. It was kind of buried in the application. The only plan that we saw had the division of the interior of the barn saying it's going to be used for storage of X, Y, and Z.
Yep.
It didn't say anything about this would be used for the sale of goods, but it does make sense for them to have an indoor location
Does
to sell
that
goods.
make any
so.
difference in our role in the application if they use it for retail purposes?
I don't think so. I mean, I think that the idea is just if there's any concerns that you have that they could work out.
They
based on
have been
local
using it
knowledge.
for,
Right.
Oh, it's
Right,
been a
still-
retail-
they've had a
retail
farm
spot
stand
Been a farm
there.
stand,
Yes,
right,
right, so that's not changed.
Yep. So if there's any input that you have, then I can convey that to the town. Otherwise, I'll just then say, let them know that there isn't anything
My only
specific.
input would be if it became the size of Pumpkin Town. I mean, you've driven past there in October and it's,
Traffic.
I mean, if you get that many cars at that intersection parking around there, it would be much more problematic than it is even on County Road 39 over where Pumpkin Town is. So right now, people go pick strawberries and there aren't too many people who do it. But if you all of a sudden ramp it up and now you've got a building and now you've got kids, then they put in the things where the kids go running around and play in the lot, suddenly parking becomes an issue. That would be my only,
Okay, I can convey that.
And I think we did say that it was comparable to the same size. You gave us the measurements last time, Kathy.
Yeah, 75
Yeah.
by 36.
That's-
So if the intensity of use is going to change, if they're going to have other things going on, corn mazes, et cetera, then they should reconsider. They should bring it back to the planning board.
It seems to me, Roy, that what to remind them that if we have any concern, it's only traffic. They pay attention to the traffic
Yeah.
implications.
I'd like to know why the town hasn't addressed the issue that Roy just related.
what, to Pumpkin Town?
Yeah.
Maybe they will. But
They haven't apparently as of yet.
Well, that could be. But, it's-
Okay.
I thought they had added parking all along the front.
We're talking about Pumpkin
Ever
Town?
been any
Oh, I'm sure
modification of their
this-
site plan or anything else?
Don't think this-
They've added parking, whether
No,
that
it's all
was,
over the place. They can't
Well,
go,
it used to be on the road, and now I think they're able to
Yeah,
pull
there's an
in.
interior parking.
Right.
But it
Inadequate.
doesn't
Inadequate.
alleviate the problem
Inadequate,
because all
yes,
it does is
inadequate.
get more cars in.
inadequate.
They get a double row of parking and now on the road too.
Right.
And across the street.
well, if you're,
They park
Yogi
their-
Berra's.
if you're
Stand
concerned,
across the street.
you've got several people talking at once.
I don't go.
If you're concerned about then the change of intensity or use, you should address that to the town.
It will do so.
How does one do that?
Write a letter.
Are we talking about Pumpkin Town, or are we talking about this?
No, talking about
Talking about a
comparing
change of
this.
intensity of use on this site.
Okay.
We don't know what the town is doing or if they retained any jurisdiction to say if the use changes or becomes a parking issue, what the town has a backup to either paved parking or
Right.
some kind of traffic control. I presume that's what Roy is talking about or
Roy has
addressing.
a colorful example that we should remind him of, and why don't you, Kathy, can you draft a letter, send it to us? And
Yeah.
Stevenson-esque, and just remind him that we're aware of the traffic and give him the example. And that's, this is not our business, it's their business.
Well, it is your business, but it's their decision.
And they've asked for your input.
And they didn't
rightly
have
so.
retail on it until just now. As you said, it was married.
Not as big a retail.
Oh, they've got a reason.
No, I'm not saying that. I'm saying in the new barn, we thought it was just for storage.
Oh, it was the way that the application was submitted. They had an extra plan that showed how it would be broken up inside in
Right.
the wintertime, but it didn't have a similar layout for the season.
Are they gonna be moving all the baking to there and trying to do all that during the summer? Because they do that in the barn over Pumpkin Town now,
They don't have any proposed kitchen
or
in this.
anything like that. But I know
what
they
you mean?
sell all the pies and
I
everything.
see.
So are they gonna be trying to use this barn as the summer retail for that?
Okay, that's a
And
good
which would
question.
increase the traffic on that property more than what it is?
Okay.
And how big is the retail space?
I believe it's the entire barn that they're using, just the way that it was
Because
written.
they have like a store in there and other stuff, but they're only open for September and October. So if they're gonna be
For Pumpkin Town.
operating on this property in June, July, August, that could cause issues with traffic more than what they have now with the Strawberry. The other thing, are they going to be approaching the county for more curb cuts? Or are they going to be using the two existing they have there? Because there's the, merging onto 39 off of North Main, there's a little bit of like a ramp there.
Yeah.
So if they're going to be asking for more curb cuts, that could slow up cars trying to get off out of the village onto 39.
Very good. Very good. Okay, I will put together a letter.
Both says we can do a letter, so we'll send them a
comments.
letter.
Okay. Thank you.
All righty, and for the record, Charlie,
Excuse me, you're going to adjourn your discussion to the next public meeting,
Might not.
December.
No,
So
I
it may not wait, that, I wouldn't bother, because
No.
I don't think this will wait.
All right, how are you going to communicate the letter? Just
I'm
send it
just
to
going- I'll
them?
send it to the
Give us a
board
draft and we'll
within a
send it to
day.
them, if that's all right.
Yeah.
Before we adjourn, for the record, I would like to officially, on behalf of the board, recognize the appointment by the mayor and the trustees of R. Zachary Upward to this board. He lives on Prospect Street. I'm told every time they say it, he's up there next to the water tower. Okay, it's a great new house. It's quite an addition. He and his bride are Southampton High School alumni. He went to graduated from Union College. He claims he's 3 kids were kind of 3 and under, are the 5th generation from the Southampton Hospital. If that may be moving, but he's been around for a while. And he works at the Seafield Center, and he's an active member of the fire department, and tells me that his specialty are at least 2 of the fire engines, including the rescue engine and the main engine on Windmill Lane. So that's some of his village background that he brings to the board, and I welcome you to your first official hearing, Zach. Nice to have you on board. And the people that watch Channel 22 can understand that he's been appointed to our board by the mayor and the trustees, and it's nice to have him on board. Thank you. Okay, don't believe we have minutes yet from the last one.
Alan,
Yep.
I just mentioned that these represent letters and signatures of people against changing Job's Lane.
They're in the file.
But yes, they're
not new ones, 'cause I read-
Brand new, no, this is all new.
Oh, no,
Are they stamp dated, Pam?
They're not in the file. I read those twice.
These were,
What date? I think I read them twice. They were stuck.
September, because they weren't in the file.
No, they were
so
stuck
I-
in between those folders.
'cause they-
So I've read them twice to see how much they're growing and whether any on both sides, but I think I've seen them twice.
Okay, so there weren't any new ones.
And-
Okay,
and
that's great.
We've had FOIA applications in there, sometimes in the file and sometimes not, going back over 2 years. Okay, so we have, I believe, the first
are
FOIA
recent, but
application
not
came
brand
in
new,
March
then.
of 17, so of the press and so forth, so we've had 2 years of this file,
This
which
is
is now before us.
August and September.
Yep, those were the ones. There was an email sent, a lot of them are copies of an email sent by the Southampton Association, which got emails back in return. And then there was a handwritten one sent around with a lot of signatures. And then there were individual ones sent in. And they haven't grown since August. And 3 times I've come to read them to keep track.
And they aren't
That's
growing.
my
Okay,
general
good.
representation. Okay, and we got a note submitted for that, which I guess, I don't know if it goes in the file. So I'll entertain, the future meetings are down. Our next meeting will be on the Monday after Thanksgiving, work session. I will entertain a motion that the meeting be adjourned.
I second it.
So moved.
Aye?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, thank you.